Mantendremos nuestras puertas abiertas para asegurar un proceso inclusivo, balanceado y transparente, en el cual todas las partes tengan oportunidad de participar, relevando las condiciones especiales de los países más vulnerables. Quiero ser muy clara. El mundo nos está mirando y espera soluciones concretas de nuestra parte. La crisis climática es una realidad y los ciudadanos del mundo entero lo saben. La están viviendo ahora. Cada medida que tomemos, cada compromiso que asumamos es un paso de esperanza. El planeta nos necesita unidos y más comprometidos que nunca. Señoras y señores, los invito a ser parte de la solución. Los invito a ser parte de este cambio de rumbo para hacer real la esperanza del mundo por un planeta mejor, porque hoy es tiempo de actuar. Muchas gracias. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the end of the ceremonial opening of the high-level segment. May I ask you to remain in your seats to allow our special guests on the podium to leave. We are truly honored to have had them here with us today. Thank you a lot. Ladies and gentlemen, let us now turn to the delivery of the national statements. I now declare open the joint third meeting of the COP5, the third meeting of the COP CMP15, and the third meeting of the CMA2. As we begin the national statements, I would like to remind representatives of the actions in place to ensure effective time management, namely the 3-minute time limit for a statement during the high-level segment. Please be reminded that statements should be as concise and brief as possible, as full text of the official statements will be made available on the UNFCCC website. Speaking slots for those who are not in the plenary at the time for delivery of their statements will be scheduled to speak at the end of all statements of the same category. Dear colleagues, let's begin. It's my pleasure to invite His Excellency, Mr. Thaneti Maumau, President of Kiribati, to deliver his national statement. Excellency, you have the floor.
Madam President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, I begin by sharing the peace and blessings of God Almighty and the warm greetings of the government and the people of Kiribati. Allow me to echo at the very outset the commendable display of support and partnership through the prompt generous offer of Spain to host this 25th session of the Conference of the Parties. I acknowledge with sincere appreciation the unyielding resilience and optimism of Chile, to you, Madam President, to successfully steer this important gathering. Against the backdrop of current climatic events, inducing intensifying impacts across the globe, we gather for the 25th time, albeit here in Madrid, as parties to this UNFCCC process. Reaching this silver jubilee is a milestone, and we need to continue that momentum. The science behind climate change and the resounding goal for people of all walks of life is undeniably unprecedented. I stand before you today to seek collective support as responsible leaders to ensure that the Paris Agreement work program is completed with the following 3 key considerations for dedicated finance for loss and damage, with clear guidelines, simplified and continued access to climate financing, and finally Article 6, with clear and robust rules around ensuring environmental integrity and promoting ambition. In my Blue Pacific region, fellow leaders and I issued the strongest call ever towards climate crisis through the Kainaki II Declaration. This is the call of the most vulnerable, including my home Kiribati, who call for urgent and ambitious actions throughout this process. The success of COP25 rests heavily on our shoulders as leaders of the world today. The recent IPCC reports confirm the realities of the climate crisis and our survival if we do not act now. This can only be achieved with low emission pathways and commitments to achieve the 1.5 degrees goal through the phasing out of coal and enhancement of nationally determined contributions to achieve carbon neutrality by 2050. Unfortunately, Madam Chair, it is still troubling to see that regardless of the science provided, as well as the collective voice of the youth and students throughout climate strikes and the evidence climate impacts each respective region is noticing, we still fall short of the required actions that will make a difference moving forward. I urge development country parties to take action now by making the necessary decisions and commit to reducing their ambitions. My government is doing utmost its limited resources to secure the future of every Kiribati child, addressed throughout our Kiribati vision for 20 years. Our climate change policy was launched in 2018, and now a national adaptation plan in September this year, including also the enactment of a joint legislation to climate change and disaster risk management last month to guide our efforts to build resilience and adaptive capacity to our people and islands. Despite all these efforts, however, our national capacity to respond to the impact of climate change, a common issue in our parliamentary sessions, is also threatened by climate change. Fisheries is certainly our key resource, and the impact of a changing climate on our oceans would decline not only our revenues and resilience as a continent, but also exacerbate the impacts of other pressing challenges facing our population. This compounds our ability as a nation to chart our own course and restrict us from achieving our fullest potential and capacity or capability as a nation to contribute effectively to our global family. Madam President, in closing, allow me to challenge us all. We have not been doing enough. As leaders, let us do a lot more by rechecking our political ideologies, by shaping up our development frameworks, and recalibrate our systems and processes to ensure that the action we deliver matches the intensity of the calamity that we are all facing. We should leave this COP with a legacy of it being known as the Silver Jubilee that would usher a new era that strengthens the fight, the momentum and the spirit of our people, because we can either leave no one behind this fight or allow climate change to spare no one. Towards this end, allow me to bestow upon us all, Madam President, Excellencies, and everyone around, our traditional blessings of the Maori, the Roi or the Tabumoa, meaning good health, peace, and prosperity upon us all. Kambasindaba, gracias, and thank you.
Of the Kingdom of Tonga to deliver his national statement. Excellency, you have the floor.
Madam Sincere gratitude is also extended to the UNFCCC Secretariat for all their preparation and arrangement to make this global conference a great success. Madam President, the Paris Agreement was a first step by the global community toward ensuring the very survival of not only the small island development states, but also the planet we all call home. We are here to progress our work under this landmark agreement and to stand in solidarity with all the small islands developing states in recognition of this year's COP theme, urging all countries that the time for action is now. Climate change is the single greatest regional threat of the Pacific Island countries, including Tonga. In accordance with the World Risk Report 2016, Tonga was ranked as the world's second most at-risk country to all disasters. The effect of climate change continue to threaten the environment, land, the ocean, and the marine resources upon which the livelihood and the existence of our people depend very much on. In the course of time, and as science tells us, these impacts are rapidly intensifying our vulnerabilities and swiftly eroding our capacities for resilience. In Tonga, we continue to experience record rates of coastal erosion, overflow and flooding. These are further compounded by the rising in sea level, 3 times higher than the global average, and tropical cyclones that are increasing in intensity and at a rate that undermines our capacity to respond to and recover from. Tropical Cyclone Kita, which hit Tonga in February 2018, is a strong testament to this increase. We understand that the world is currently on a course where we have now reached a 1.1 degrees Celsius, backed up by the latest IPCC special report. We strongly emphasize the fundamental value and imperative for limiting the temperature increase to 1.5 degrees Celsius. This can only be achieved through genuine commitment and cooperation from government, development partners, and parties that are fully engaging in the implementation of the Paris Agreement, the Sendai Framework, Sustainable Development Goals, and the Samoa Pathway. I must stress the urgency and the need to strengthen our dialogue and partnership for the enhancement of actions, support and synergies in the areas of technology, capacity building, and the mandatory financing for effective implementation of the Paris Agreement. Madam President, Tonga approached the 50 Pacific Island Leaders Forum that was convened in Tuvalu this year for endorsing the Kainaki II Declaration and calls for urgent climate action to reduce the global greenhouse gas emissions and prevent the catastrophic global warming, the extreme weather events, and flooding and droughts. Tonga is committed in ensuring the rapid progression at the national level to implement the necessary action toward achieving its NDC targets of 50 renewable energy by 2020, 70 by 2030, and 100% by 2035. Improve energy efficiency through reduction of electricity in line losses to 9% by 2020, and to double 2015 number of marine protected areas by 2030. Tonga is also committed to prepare a long-term low-emission development strategy, and it will communicate it to the COP26 next year. In raising its ambition and climate action, Tonga also uses a whole-of-country approach through its second joint national action plan on climate change adaptation and disaster risk management 2018-2028. It is with hope that this COP25 is a testament to the genuine partnerships and collective responsibility of all parties in raising their ambition and action toward achieving the goals of the Paris Agreement. Civil society, academia, and the private sector must continue to be steadfast in their coordinated roles in ensuring genuine accountability by the state actors and continue to be the solid drivers in our search for further solutions on the continuing adverse effects of climate change. I thank you. Marao Pito.
Thank you, Your Excellency. It is now my pleasure to invite His Excellency Mr. Kausea Natano, Prime Minister of Government of Tuvalu, to deliver his national statement. Excellency, you have the floor.
Madam President, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is a pleasure to be here in Spain under the presidency of Chile, and I offer my sympathy to the Chilean government and sincerely hope that a lasting solution can be found to the civil unrest the country is facing. We must take heart that the collaboration between the governments of Spain and Chile in such a short time is a clear example of how the international community can work together to achieve the impossible. As an international community, we all must draw from the example and work together to rapidly address climate change. In July this year, the UN Secretary-General visited Tuvalu and was clearly moved by the extremely vulnerability we face. Despite this vulnerability, we are making every effort to ensure that Tuvalu will survive into the future. We are exploring a variety of innovations, including the building of artificial islands, but we cannot do this alone. We need the support of the international community to provide the financial support and technical know-how to make such opportunities a reality. In August this year, Tuvalu hosted the Pacific Island Leaders Forum. At this meeting, Pacific leaders agree on the Kainagacho Declaration for urgent climate change action now. The declaration called on the international community to continue efforts towards meeting their global climate finance commitment of $100 billion per year by 2020, and emphasized the importance of the replenishment of the Green Climate Fund. In this respect, we are grateful for the nations that made pledges to increase their contribution to the Green Climate Fund in October. Nevertheless, more needs to be done. More countries need to step up and make strong commitments contribute to the Green Climate Fund. We urgently need an upscaling of climate change finance to meet the challenges that countries like Tuvalu face in the wake of climate change. The Kainagi II Declaration welcomed the focus by the Chilean COP25 presidency on oceans. This fits very well with framing of our work in the Pacific under the banner of the Blue Pacific. We sincerely hope that parties here will agree to a work program on oceans and to carry this theme into 2020 and beyond. Madam President, we note the importance you have placed on the COP being a COP of ambitions. We all must take ambitious actions to reduce greenhouse gas emissions to reach the temperature goal of below 1.5 degrees Celsius, above pre-industrial levels. As part of this commitment to ambitions, we must rapidly phase out fossil fuel subsidies and transition to low-carbon economies. Madam President, I wish to refer to two key issues that are being discussed at the COP. One is the review of the Warsaw International Mechanisms on loss and damage, and the other is market and non-market mechanisms under the Paris Agreement. The Warsaw International Mechanism, it is our view that the mechanism must direct its work toward finding adequate source of finance to help countries deal with loss and damage as a consequence of climate change. Madam President, we need to identify options within the Green Climate Fund and other sources to meet the growing costs of loss and damage. We believe that the San Diego Network for Loss and Damage could provide a central role in supporting vulnerable developing countries to address loss and damage. We also know that there is a debate around the Warsaw International Mechanism should serve, who the mechanism should serve, and it is our view that the mechanism should serve both the Convention and the Paris Agreement. Madam President, on the market and non-market mechanism, it is our view that environment integrity is absolutely critical. Therefore, we believe that the accounting system for the market mechanism should deliver an overall mitigation in global emissions. Madam President, all nations must contribute to the efforts